Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Ryan Bing. That's how you say it, right?
Yep, that's correct.
I butcher everyone's name on this podcast.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. So something cool I just did. I saw on Instagram where if you turn your phone in black and white mode, that you stay off of it.
Yeah, that definitely does work.
Yes, and it is horrible. Like it looks atrocious. Mm-hmm. So I've been staying off my phone because it just looks so ugly now.
Yeah, I used to do that for a while there. It's a pretty good trick.
What do you mean for a while? You stopped?
I stopped it.
Mike.
Oh, sorry.
What'd you stop for?
Why did I stop?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of taught myself to stay off there more on my own. Kind of used it to ease into it more.
See, for me, I'm so addicted to the cell phones. Like it's either like throw it away or do something like that to keep me visually away from it.
Right. I get that.
So even like we play Pokemon Go heavy at the bar. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at Pokemon Go in black and white mode, it is ugly.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, no, it's bad. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about what you do. Cause this is, I meet people at the bar and they come on the podcast and you and I were talking about something that I'm very intrigued about, but I've never met anyone that I could talk to about.
I gotcha.
So go ahead.
So currently I handle purchasing for a food and supplement testing lab. Mm-hmm. For privacy reasons, we're not going to disclose the company name.
Okay.
Previous to that, though, I actually worked in the lab itself. So I'm a chemist by trade. So I have a lot of experience within that industry.
Mm-hmm. So I've been taking pre-workout for, God, I guess like 12 or 13 years now. Like it's what I do. I wake up in the morning, I take my pre-workout, I go to the gym and I work out. Went through several different versions before I finally found one that I feel like worked for my body chemistry. Some of them were very bad. Mm-hmm. Like I want to say the names. It's not gonna get you in trouble if I say the names.
No, we're good.
Okay. So C4, that stuff made me throw up. Like every time I went in the weight room, I throw it in the trash. Yeah. I don't know. Is there something in that one that particularly have you looked at that one?
Offhand, I'd have to bring it up. I mean,
okay.
Is it cool if I bring it up or?
Yeah, you can go ahead and bring it up.
We can do that.
We'll fill the air.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I started off with, I think it's called No Explode.
Yeah. I know a lot of people have tried that one too.
Yeah. No Explode. That one right there was pretty good. And then I transitioned to C4 for some reason. And then I went back to No Explode, and then I did a fitness competition, and they gave me a sample of Hyde, and that's what I take now. And I love that stuff.
I gotcha.
But it's probably cancerous as hell.
I mean, it's probably not actually as bad as you think. It also depends where everybody's making their products as well.
Right. What do you mean?
So certain companies are actually manufacturing over in China versus over here in the U.S., so that's something to kind of look out for. Right.
So do you think do they bulk manufacture over there? They make the entire product and then do they make the like components over there and then ship them over here and put them in containers?
It varies brand to brand.
Okay.
A lot of the larger ones will bulk manufacture over there and then ship them over.
So C4.
Yeah. So for C4, I mean, as far as that goes, not really seeing anything in there that should make you feel kind of gross and want to throw up. So hard to say on that one.
Maybe I just took too much.
How much were you taking?
I think it was just a scoop. I don't think I've ever went overboard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's odd if one scoop was enough to make you feel sick on that one.
Maybe I just didn't eat that day or something. Who knows?
That could be it too. That's very common.
Yeah.
And I know for the Hyde, I know we had said we wanted to compare that to, what was it, the Caged?
Yes. Caged was the one they talked me into buying after they ran out of Hyde.
I gotcha. So I mean, the Caged, from looking at it already, looks like kind of just a more intense version of the Hyde. You could honestly probably just cut that in half and stretch it.
That's what the guy was saying too that day. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make me feel the same as Hyde does.
I gotcha.
Yeah, something in it like is different in my opinion anyway from taking
Let's see.
But I've never actually looked at the chemistry of it.
Yeah, as far as the chemistry goes for that, there's a lot more pump product in there.
In Hyde?
In the Caged.
Interesting.
So depending upon how much food you had in your system, you could have been dropping your blood sugar too low just from taking like all the blood supply away from your stomach if you had just eaten or something like that. I mean,
So-
there's a couple of different reasons why.
Well, the way I normally do it is I won't eat anything in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just jump up and take pre-workout and go directly to the gym.
I gotcha. So yeah, that can definitely, just from overstimulation in of itself, can be too much for you. I mean, it depends on what your goal is too for going to the gym. Like if you're trying to go first thing to burn fat, probably going to do that fasted.
You know, I honestly, the only reason I go to the gym is to get my mind like working correctly.
Right. I mean, if that's the case, then I would probably eat something before you go. Maybe just a small meal, like half hour before. Maybe even take like a protein shake or something.
For the like sugars.
Yeah, for like the sugar and just to give your body something to digest. Like do that maybe at least half hour to an hour before, preferably on the higher side if you can. If not, probably stick with something that's just simple sugars so you can digest it faster.
Yeah, I've been telling this. I haven't really put it in practice, but I've been telling people for a long time to eat like something sugary before you go to the gym. There's a older guy in town, freaking jacked older guy. He's also an actor. His name is Chip. Shout out Chip. But he's like a fanatic about Peeps. So before he goes to the gym, he eats Peeps. Yeah, I guess that's probably the same kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you got on your notepad there? Come with all kinds of goodies.
Yeah, I know you'd asked about different supplements people could take. So I kind of gave my top 5. And these are a little bit different ones than what people normally talk about. You know, like you usually hear about vitamin D, fish oil, stuff like that. I feel like at this point, most people know about those. So we don't really need to cover that.
Well, you would say this, but I know most people.
Okay, fair enough.
Most people only see what's right here in front of their face.
Okay, well, we'll go over these ones because these are a little more fun.
Okay.
And then we can get into some of the other ones past that if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So at least for me personally, like my top 5, the first one is L-Theanine. It is an amino acid that's found in tea and some mushrooms. It really helps with focus and calming you down. And if you take it in like about a 2-to-1 ratio with say like 200 milligrams of that to 100 milligrams of caffeine, it really helps with focus and then also keeping you from having like the jitters and having that crash afterward.
So like all kinds of mushrooms, or is there like a specific kind?
Offhand, I couldn't say, but it's probably more like the cordyceps and stuff like that. Like, you know, the mushroom coffee that people are talking about now.
Yeah.
A lot of the ones like that.
Dude, mushrooms are so fucking fascinating. I think there's so much with those that we don't even really understand yet.
Oh, there's a ton there.
Yeah, especially like because I microdose psilocybin.
Okay.
I'm a huge proponent of that. I think that anyone that deals with like depression and stuff, that they should sample these things.
Right. I mean, there's actually currently studies going on with psilocybin for the purpose of depression, PTSD, anxiety.
Yeah. And they got to be taken in the correct way too.
Right.
Like you don't want to take them and go out in public around a bunch of people.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, just a little microdose in the morning. It does something with my focus as well. Cause I have attention issues, but that and plus working out in the morning just gets me straight.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I need to start putting more mushrooms in my diet. I've seen like several recipes online. Like there's one you can like, I don't know, grill them and stuff. And they said it looks like meat.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like consuming mushrooms go, I would kind of fill that out. See if you have any inflammation issues. I know in certain people, they can cause that.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. If you're sensitive and everybody's different. So you kind of have to test everything out little by little and see how it goes.
Right. So what are the inflammation? Like what causes that? You know?
It's compounds within the mushrooms themselves kind of to make things not want to eat them.
Yeah. So I heard this argument by Bear Grylls a while back and I thought this was fascinating. He was basically saying that he used to be a vegetarian, maybe vegan. I can't remember, but he said he used to be a vegetarian, eat a lot of plants. And he said one day he started thinking about it. And he's like, hang on a second. Like animals have claws and teeth to keep things from eating them. What do plants have? Plants have chemicals inside of them. So he says, you know, I stopped eating all plants and I started eating only meats. That's what he started doing.
Okay.
And that's his diet now. But that sparked something in me. I'm like, holy shit, he's correct. Like the same thing with mushrooms. Like they have components inside of them that make animals not want to eat them.
Exactly. And I mean, that's like with like, say, spinach. Raw spinach has a ton of oxalates in it, which can actually make it harder for you to absorb magnesium, calcium, stuff like that.
Okay. So what about kale? Does kale have any of that stuff in it too?
Same deal. Not to the same amount. Generally speaking, if you can cook your greens, it's a lot better for you.
Okay. Yeah. I've been eating a lot of raw kale salads.
Yeah.
And
I mean, a little bit's not going to be
I've been eating a lot. Like that was my diet for a while. It was kale salads and eggs.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, I mean, there's really no way to know for sure if it's affecting you without, if
Testing.
you feel different or doing blood work, which is very important, even if you're a natural athlete or just regular person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my thing is I eat things and and also with supplements, I take supplements and I see how it makes me feel.
Right.
And I feel like I'm introspective enough to like do this, but I feel like there's a lot of people that just keep doing this shit.
Right. And then I guess for my second one, that's kind of a good segue actually. Magnesium glycinate.
Okay.
About 50% of people are actually deficient in magnesium. So you could be running into like cramping, issues with blood sugar, anxiety, blood pressure, all of that simply because you don't have enough magnesium.
Interesting. So how do you get that?
You can get it through certain foods, certain vegetables, certain meats. But as far as that goes, it's really tough to actually get enough through diet alone.
Right.
So supplementing it is probably going to be your best bet.
Interesting. So here's one of the things I follow this page on Instagram and the page is called Wallach Warriors.
Okay.
And this guy talks about mineral deficiencies. Mm-hmm. And he says that most diseases can be solved by taking minerals and nutrients in your body because we have mineral deficient society. Do you? So
I wouldn't necessarily say it goes quite that far because I feel like, there's other things that
There's a big statement.
Yeah. But at the same time though, if you're deficient in these areas, you're going to kind of weaken yourself against fighting off anything that could cause these issues.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
The other thing too, if you take magnesium before bed, you're going to sleep a lot better and you might have some really interesting dreams as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Do you know the chemistry behind that or is it just?
It's something with it helps you get into like a deeper sleep better.
Right.
As far as, I just blanked on the sleep state, but
that's fine. Yeah. But dude, the human body is so fucking fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild how some of this stuff works.
Yeah. So just a segue on that. We'll stay on task, but because I know there are probably people out there that want to hear this information. We'll go back over at the end too. Yeah. That way you know everything. I've also heard that smoking marijuana nullifies the dreams. Do you know anything about this?
I have heard that is the case. I'm not terribly familiar with the science behind that. I have heard if you start smoking marijuana too early in your development, that it can actually affect your brain chemistry in the long run. So like anyone who's smoking it prior to 25 is potentially incurring some damage there, especially which I understand that's a big statement, but some of the studies that are coming out now are starting to show that habitual use from an early age can cause memory issues and stuff.
It makes perfect sense. And that's the same way with psychedelics too. Right. Like if you're at a young age, you probably shouldn't take these substances. Let your brain fully develop, which is what, 25?
Yeah. 25 on average.
Yeah. So luckily for me, I think I was 29 when I started doing any of this stuff. Right. Like someone gave me LSD for the first time and I was like, holy shit, mine just opened up. And then I took some psilocybin. It was all after in my like early 30s.
Okay. Even
marijuana. I never smoked weed before them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I recommend everyone do that because I feel like a lot of the people that I meet today that have done it at such a young age, they're, you can tell.
Right.
Yeah. It's not a bad statement for me to say, but it's a little bit, I don't know, a little slower.
Yeah. In certain cases, you can definitely see that. I mean, Everybody's different. Everybody's body chemistry is going to be different. So what affects one person might not affect another one.
So that statement right there, this is going to be controversial.
Okay.
With that statement that you just said, everyone's a little different. Do you think that we should give everyone the same vaccine?
As far as that goes, that's a tough one. I mean, the bigger thing is adjusting dosage based on body weight and stuff like that, which keep in mind, not a doctor, can't really comment specifics on that. But from seeing some of the studies that are out there on vaccines in animals, I mean, they're starting to do titer testing now for rabies for dogs and cats rather than just popping them with a vaccine every couple of years.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of times you still have that immunity months, years, even a decade later,
right?
To the point where you might not actually need to have that follow-up vaccine.
Yeah, that was my thing with all these deals. I'm like, everyone has different neurochemistry. Like, why are we giving everyone the same exact thing? Because you never know what it's going to do to someone. So that's a risk. So anytime, and I understand letting people make the choice for themselves. Mm-hmm. That's your personal choice, but you should never force people to get these things. Right.
Now, as far as that goes, the medical studies that go behind it, they're trying to find a dosage that works for the general population. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to, lower the odds of it being a negative reaction for the most part. So that's why they come to that conclusion, which it might not be the best for everybody, but for your average person, it's probably going to be fine.
Right. Carry on.
Yeah. But I guess I do agree with you as far as like, it should be someone's choice on that.
Well, that's everything in life too.
Right.
You want to get your shit cut off? It's your choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for number 3, alpha GPC, it is, I'm not even going to go into the full name of it. It's huge. It's good for increasing power in the gym as well as focus.
Alpha GPC.
Yeah. It's also good for your liver. Always a plus, especially if you like to drink.
I want to say that was in some supplement that I took one time.
I want to say it was actually in both of the ones you take.
Okay. Well, I know like Alpha Brain. I took Alpha Brain for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be in that too. I'm not 100% sure.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somewhere around like 600 milligrams of that per day for even if you take it for just a week straight, they found in one study it increased lower body power by about 14%.
So legs.
Yes. Legs.
Yeah. Obviously I don't do legs. So I mean,
Can't be skipping leg day. Come on.
Dude, so I started doing more legs here recently, actually, just for the circulation aspect. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there was a while where my legs weren't circulating as well. And my whole theory behind leg day was that if my upper body gets bigger and bigger, my legs have to grow because they're carrying my upper body around,
Not quite, but I mean, what are you doing for leg day?
I don't do much. I don't do much for arm day anymore either. Though.
Okay.
So for arm day, I do like 15s and 20s, and I just do like high volume weights. For leg days, I do heavier. So I get like 50s and I do like squats and I do some lunges and then I do elliptical and I turn the resistance up high.
So you're going to the gym to do all this?
Yeah, there's a gym in my complex. That I work at.
I would say if you can just throw as much weight as you can handle on a bar for like say 5 to 10 reps.
I don't have bars. That's the problem. Yeah, but I can do like 5 to 10 reps, heavy weights.
Yeah, you're going to probably see a lot more benefit there as far as bone density, strength. And it'll help your circulation as well.
Dude, I did hear that about David Goggins. So there was a scientist that was like, I think his like knee or something was fucked up and they were going in to like fix it. And the guy said that normally the knife or whatever just slices right through it. And it says for his, because he runs and does so much that it was like so hard it was almost bending the knife. Yeah. And that's all from doing repeated stress on the bones. Yeah. So that's a cool thing to like think about especially when you talk about the like guys that break bricks with their knuckles and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those dudes are just repeatedly breaking those bones, microfractures, and they're healing back stronger and stronger.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's especially for well-being into your older years. It's very important to build that strength base now, because once you get past, I want to say it was like 40 or 50, your bones start to weaken if you don't kind of keep up with that.
Interesting.
So the more you can build now, the better off you'll be in the long run.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah. So I got to start power loading my legs.
Yeah. I mean, don't go too crazy, but as long as you feel like you're breaking a sweat, really pushing yourself enough, you're going to definitely see some difference there.
Yeah.
Number 4, berberine.
What is that? I've never heard of this.
So it is an extract from a couple different plants, generally like the roots, other parts. It's good for insulin sensitivity, which a lot of people have problems with that. And it also kind of works for carb disposal to an extent as well. So you won't actually process all the carbs you eat at that point, which helps then sensitize you to insulin more. So you'll be able to build muscle better, but it also can help people with say like diabetes and stuff like that.
Okay.
But also they've found in some studies now, it's good for hormone management to an extent for people where their hormones are out of balance.
Well, I think that's another big problem with today's society. Yeah. I've heard there's a lot of endocrine disruptors in our food, in our environment, everything nowadays.
Exactly. It's especially helpful for women with conditions like PCOS and stuff like that. They found that I think it was like 1,500 milligrams of it is equivalent to about 1,000 milligrams of metformin. So, I mean, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Don't know how long it'll stay OTC now that people are catching on, but.
Well, why would they take it over the counter? Just for money reasons?
I mean, it works.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing.
What a shitty society we live in, dude. Like, and I heard that there's one thing where they can't patent natural medicines. So what they do is they take those compounds and they extract like one thing off of it or change like one thing, and they patent that and then sell that as a new drug.
Yep, that's like are you familiar with Limitless?
Yeah.
The show. The drug that's based on actually once the patent was about to expire, they reformulated it and just focused on one of the isomers, so they didn't have to lose the patent and let it go to generic.
So that's based off a real drug?
Mm-hmm.
What's the drug?
The drug is modafinil.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there's a guy who was telling me, he's like, dude, if you ever come across modafinil, he's like, take that. He's like, because it's a game changer.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
Especially the new version they made of it. It'll last for probably about 16 hours.
Get the fuck out of here. And so is it like a stronger form of Adderall? Is that what it's like?
So you don't get like the cracked out jittery feeling that you would have with Adderall.
Yeah, it gets rough sometimes.
But your focus is going to be a lot better. It's a very clean focus, I would say, from talking to people that have taken it.
So like that's an over-the-counter drug. Or that's not over-the-counter.
No, it's not over the counter.
Yeah, you got to get it prescribed that.
Correct.
Okay.
Or know where to get it.
Interesting, dude. I want to try that someday. I just want to see what it does. I'm that way with everything. That's the whole reason I took acid the first time, because I'm like, what is this? Like, what is it about this that makes people so nervous about it? You know,
right.
Same way with psilocybin. I'm like, what is it about this compound that just makes people go, well, this should be illegal?
Right. I mean, with a lot of things, the devil is in the dose.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's everything, even sugar.
Right.
Yeah. Sugar, caffeine, all these things.
I mean, sugar and cocaine light up about the same parts of the brain. So
I've heard this.
It's kind of a concern.
The rat study, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's so dope.
Which, I mean, rat studies don't always work equivalent to human studies.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind there. But even still,
yeah,
there's something there.
The study that we're referencing, let me see if I get this right. You probably know it better than I do. But they basically took a bunch of rats and they put cocaine water in one side of the cage and they put sugar water in the other side of the cage. And the rats actually started drinking the sugar water more than the cocaine water because it was lighting up their brain better and they liked it better.
Right.
That's tough for me to handle because I've also tried that substance and that substance smells really great.
Okay. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It just makes you want to come back and smell it some more, you know?
I think I've also seen somewhere that, I don't know if there was like an official study, but a vodka Red Bull is supposed to elicit about the same effect as cocaine, which I can't comment if that works that way or not.
Right.
Would you?
Let me see. Let me think about this for a second.
Maybe a little weaker, I would have to imagine.
Well, the interesting thing about the cocaine is that it makes your whole face numb. Vodka and Red Bull doesn't do that.
Of course.
But it does like give you that euphoric feeling.
Right.
Yeah. So that euphoric feeling's there. But there's also something I stumbled across recently. It's called Kin Euphorics. One of my buddies, I wish I should have sent you that too. You could look that up. One of my buddies actually gave me one of those. KIN, if you want to look it up.
Yeah, let's look that up.
One of my buddies who's on the street here, he gave me one of those. He was trying to get off alcohol and nicotine, and his girlfriend had bought him those for Christmas or something. And I drank one of those one day, and it was like such a unique feeling. So it's almost like a mild form of Adderall.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the chemical compositions on there, but it's a really cool.
Do you know which one you took?
I took. Let's see. I think it was this one.
All right, let's find out.
Maybe it wasn't that. It was anyway.
Okay. So I mean, it has a couple different things in there that I can see why you'd get a similar effect out of that. It does have the L-Theanine that we talked about. It has some citicoline, which is a different form of choline. It's very similar to the alpha GPC, actually. Has some GABA in there. At that dose, can't really say if that's actually doing anything. It might just be more for kind of like a word just to kind of catch your eye there.
Right.
Yeah. 5-HTP. I mean, that's pretty powerful there.
Hang on. What is that? I've heard this word before.
I want to say it helps with serotonin.
Okay.
It's often used as like an over-the-counter antidepressant.
Okay.
Let's see. Phenylethylamine, PEA. That'll actually make you pop for certain lifting federations. It's definitely a euphoric as well. It only lasts for like 10, 15 minutes though, from my understanding.
So it make you pop, you mean that you will get, if you get tested?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What was it again?
Phenylethylamine, PEA.
Interesting.
And then there's some rhodiola rosea That can definitely help with focus and just an overall well-being. And then L-tyrosine, same thing plays into there too.
Yeah. It was a very interesting feel that gave me.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. I think that the product's a little bit expensive, but yeah, it was a very interesting feel. What else you got?
Let's see. And then for the last one, saved like the best one for last, I guess, since this is a bar podcast. NAC, Antecedal L-Cystine. It's really good for liver health, but if you plan on going out for a night of drinking, if you take a high dose of that with some electrolytes, you're going to feel a lot better the next morning.
Okay. And this is something you can buy over the counter?
Yep. Currently, there was a little bit of a back and forth recently on if it should be available over the counter or not. The FDA, as far as I know, hasn't made an official statement either way. You can still pick it up on Amazon though.
Okay.
But take a higher dose, like 1,000, 2,000 milligrams. Again, not a doctor, not a prescription. With some electrolytes, maybe an hour or two before you go out drinking. And that kind of primes your liver to be able to process the alcohol you're going to be throwing at it.
Right.
However, don't take it after you drink because that can actually make things worse.
How's that?
Something with, they haven't really figured out the mechanism behind that, but in the studies they've done so far, they've found that it seems to actually make it worse as far as liver function after the fact.
Yeah. So go back to that list.
So again, my top 5 would be L-Theanine, Magnesium Glycinate, Alpha GPC, Berberine, and NAC.
Okay. And the doses, can you do the doses?
Doses, these are just a rough start. For the L-Theanine, probably do about 200 milligrams at night just to relax if you want, or do it in a 2-to-1 ratio with it being the 2 for 2-to-1 caffeine. And that'll help with focus and getting rid of the jitters and the crash from the caffeine. For the magnesium glycinate, about 420 milligrams per day is a good start. You can take more if need be. For the alpha GPC, about 600 milligrams per day seems to be the dosage that the studies found was effective for increasing power. You can take less if need be, but that's just the dosage that's been studied. Mm-hmm. For the berberine, anywhere from 500 to say 1500 milligrams per day seems to be about right. With that, I would definitely start low and titrate up. Otherwise, you might be going to the bathroom a lot. Don't want to not be able to trust a fart on that one. And then for the NAC, 300 plus milligrams per day, just in general, or if you're taking it for the purpose of like pre-gaming more or less, I would do say 1200 to 2400 milligrams.
And would you take these things in the morning?
I would take the L-Theanine around the caffeine, or if you want to take it to relax at night, just take it at night then. Magnesium glycinate would definitely take that pre-bed. That'll also kind of help with the dream part. But if it bothers you to have like those intense dreams, maybe take it a little earlier. The alpha GPC, you can kind of take that whenever, honestly. Berberine, I personally take it pre-bed. You again, take it whenever. And then the NAC with that dosage timing doesn't matter as well.
So that's what you would take if you were trying to be a healthier human.
Right.
Okay. And did those all mix well with each other?
Correct.
Okay. Because that's another thing that I used to date a girl who was physician's assistant, PA. Mm-hmm. And what we were talking about it one day, and she was saying that when people come into the hospital, it's not only that they have an ailment. It's also what medications are you taking? Mm-hmm. How are all these medications combining with each other?
Yes.
And then also that on top of the ailment that you have, and anything they give them, they have to take all those factors into consideration.
Yes. With these, I will say that if you're on any form of antidepressants, you might want to watch a little bit. There can be some interaction where it might actually make the antidepressant work stronger.
So like 60% of the population probably shouldn't take this stuff.
So the effect is kind of, again, person to person. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people that are on fairly high doses of antidepressants that take a lot of these at high doses and have zero problems. But I have to put that, warning out there just in case. I don't want anybody to be surprised if something happens.
Makes sense.
At the same time, though, some people have been able to reduce the dosage of antidepressants. So, that's a plus. That's
a very big plus. Yeah. That's something I heard a while back that like 50% of the population or something now is on some form of I forgot what the actual term they used, but it wasn't all antidepressants, but it was some form of like mental, medication. And that's, I think that says something about our society as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, our society definitely has a big mental health problem.
Yeah. And it's disturbing.
The question is, what do we do about it?
That is a good question. I think, in my opinion, what we should do about it is reform our education system. Okay. But I also think we should get our government under control first. And I think that's the big kicker with reforming the education is you get the government under control and then you reformat the education, actually teach people how to live life rather than just be a part of it. And then they'll change their mental. Because I think that's a big issue we're having now is people are just a part of something. Like they're not actually living life. They're a part of something bigger. They can't even see the whole part of it. Like, where are we going as a human species?
Right. I agree with that. I mean, from my understanding, the early days of education, it was more designed to create a better worker for the people that were funding the education rather than make you a better person overall.
Yeah. And I think that's the issue. Like, so everything on this planet is a system, right? And systems must evolve or they die. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the problem with our systems is they have not evolved. And that's why we're dying right now as a society. Right. Like our education system and our government are two systems that haven't really evolved. So like those two systems need to evolve or I fear the worst,
Yeah, I will say that since moving down here, just noticing the disparity in education between like even the North and the South is pretty big. I was surprised by how large of a gap there is.
Yeah. So where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from the Pittsburgh area. Mm. Grew up there my whole life, lived in Ohio for a little bit for college, and then moved back and then came down here in 2020.
For work, I'm guessing?
Yes.
And you noticed that people in the South, that's where the lower education side is?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at like the rankings for schools and testing overall, I think Louisiana has at least for the past 5-10 years been at least the bottom 5.
So that makes perfect sense because I went to one of the schools one time, one of their public schools here. It's out in Metairie. Mm-hmm. And I forgot what the name of the school is, but we were filming something there and I walked into the place and my first thought was, oh, this is one of the schools that was damaged by Katrina. Mm-hmm. And I asked the guy, I was like, was this one of the schools? He said, yes, it was. And I said, oh, so when are they going to repair it? And he's like, wow. Oh, it's a fully functioning school. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Dude, the floors, like the tiles were all jacked up. Some of the windows were broken out. The textbooks had like the front pages ripped off. It was insanity. I was like, there are actually people that go to school here. No wonder they don't want to learn.
And part of that too comes from a lot of the laws where they make it easier to put kids in private schools. Mm. And I think Louisiana has something where you can kind of take the money that would have gone to the private school and would have gone to the public school and put to the private school for your kid. Is that a thing here?
Oh, I don't know.
I know certain states have that, like a voucher system or something like that.
Well, so where I'm from in Arkansas, our schools are phenomenal compared to down here. Mm-hmm. But then they're all public schools.
Right.
But all our facilities are immaculate compared to what they're working with down here. And people down up there think that it's horrible. And like, you haven't seen the rest of the world. Like the way things operate down here, if I had to go there every single day as a child, I'd be like, fuck this place.
Right. It's really not fair to the kids. Like, how can we expect them to rise above their situations when we're not giving them the tools they need to do that? Now, at the same time, though, part of that also comes down to the fact that Louisiana is the #1 corporate welfare state.
Explain that.
So as far as money given to corporations, they give the most out of any state to the point of like, I think it's like 5 times what Texas does. And Texas is like the next highest one.
So the government's giving money to the corporations?
Correct.
Okay.
In order to keep them here for better jobs.
Interesting.
I'll have to send you the video if I can find it again, but East Baton Rouge, I believe, is the richest and poorest zip code. Because of stuff like that. Because of the chemical companies that get all these kickbacks.
Well, also Lamar Advertising is there too, right?
I believe so.
Lamar Advertising is one of the biggest billboard companies in the United States. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense why those places are there then.
Yeah.
So like that's another system. That's another way our system needs to be evolved. And I think the problem is we got all these politicians in that just want to make money.
Exactly.
So they're getting kickbacks off all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not about helping, the little guy. It's about how can I put money in my pocket,
right,
and help the people that I like.
So how do you fix that? Ryan Bean.
How do you fix that? Whew, that is a tough one.
The $1 million question.
Well, you have to find a way to educate people outside of the education system. Otherwise, there's not going to be an opportunity for people to learn.
That's actually a good way to think about it. Because where did I get my real world education from? I think I learned a lot of stuff just based off the internet.
Mm-hmm. Now you have to keep in mind too, like, you got to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt.
True.
But some people push that to a fault where they're like, everything on the internet's fake. For
me, I did this. I went by this thing called first principles learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically where when you want to learn something new, you go to the very root of the what it is, the very core of it,
mm-hmm.
and you learn the very fundamentals of it, and then you kind of scale up from that, and then you learn which sites are beneficial to you and which sites are false information, because you can kind of cut through the bullshit. I think it's a lot of reason people believe anything on the internet is because they don't really understand the fundamentals enough. So anything that's said to them, and if you don't understand the root of it, you're going to believe everything that's said. Right. But if you understand the root of what they're talking about, you're like, well, this person's saying bullshit.
Exactly. And I'm gonna tie that into the supplement side to kind of help keep on topic a little bit, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's so much out there on the supplements on the internet that's just complete crap.
Yeah.
Like BCAA supplements, you're just wasting your money. Sure, you might like the taste, but just taking leucine by itself actually has more of a benefit than taking BCAAs.
Interesting, because I've heard a lot about BCAAs. Yeah.
So you're better off either taking isolated leucine or just protein. Mm-hmm. Taking just the BCAAs by themselves actually isn't really doing anything for you.
BCAAs are amino acids, right?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, if you're just taking an amino acid supplement, that's what he's saying. It's
Yeah. So you're better off just eating real food. Like, honestly, the simpler the food you're eating, the better.
Eggs.
Yeah. Eggs are good. There was a push for years about eggs being bad for you, but now we're starting to see that some of the studies on cholesterol might not be accurate.
Yeah, cholesterol is what you make your hormones out of.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you need cholesterol. So some of my family members, they've been taking statins mm-hmm. to lower their cholesterol, and they're having hormone issues.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're probably having hormone issues because but you can't tell people these things.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, because they don't want to hear it, because I'm just a guy that runs a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and reads a lot. But like, the doctor's telling them, hey, take statins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the doctor also might be getting a little kickback from the pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Or say they're not. It might just be a gap in education. Because I'm not sure how well doctors stay up on, the newest things coming out.
So I ran across a few doctors in my time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I always like to ask them is, do you have very many nutrition classes? And they said maybe like one.
Yeah.
And that's a big flaw in our system also, because mm-hmm. the body wants to repair itself.
Right.
So if you're putting the correct nutrition into the body, it's going to repair itself. But when you're throwing all these other medications in, you're throwing off the entire biome that you have.
Exactly. And as far as nutrition goes, I'm a big proponent of not cutting any one food group out unless absolutely need be, like if there's a sensitivity or an allergy or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a big fan of like keto, vegetarian, veganism, anything like that, just because you're kind of putting yourself in super hard mode to hit all the nutrients you need to hit.
Right. It makes sense.
I mean, in nature, millennia ago, we were kind of just eating whatever we could get a hold of to mm-hmm. be able to hit all our nutrient requirements. I feel like if you're pulling something out that you're meant to eat, that's probably not doing you any good.
Yeah. One of the things I did I noticed this first was whenever I was dieting for one of the competitions that I did, I started having these weird cravings. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was just like, man, I'm having cravings for grease is what it was. I could smell grease from a fucking mile away. I'd be driving by a gas station and I would smell the fried chicken. And I realized that my fat was so low that I was just like craving all these things.
I mean, how low did you cut your fat?
Oh, dude, I was probably down to like 4%.
Oh, geez.
Like I was having like hormone issues.
Okay.
Like this is going to get personal, but there were a few times where I was sitting there at my job. I was working IT at the time and I would just like have this like orgasm and my prostate was just like releasing prostate fluid. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why it was doing that. I even reached out to my dietitian. I was like, yo, this just happened to me. It just felt like an orgasm just sitting at an IT desk. And I was like, this is fucking weird.
That's not good at all.
Yeah. I was like, well, I don't know what's going on right now, but something's happening. And that happened twice to me. And then that was when I was doing the diet, obviously. But Yeah, it was so weird.
So like what percent of your calories were from fat at that point? 4%, or like your body fat was down to 4%?
Well, I'll just tell you my diet at the time. Okay. So I would wake up in the morning and I would eat oatmeal.
Okay.
And I would have like a small piece of chicken. I would go work out.
All right.
After my workout, I would have some more oatmeal, like just a little bit of portions of oatmeal. And I would have chicken and asparagus.
Okay.
And then for lunch, I would have chicken and asparagus. And then I might go work out again in the evening, and I would do chicken and asparagus for after meal, and chicken and asparagus for dinner.
Are you doing just dry chicken?
Dry chicken.
Yeah. So pretty much no fat.
No fat.
Okay.
Yeah. My body was just like dying.
Yeah. I mean, from what we're seeing now from a lot of the studies, anything under 20% of your calories from fat is going to be too low. I mean, you can temporarily go lower, but it's not a good idea to do it long term.
Yeah, I would do that for 2 weeks before I would go on stage. It was like a water retention type diet.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And it was, I was dying at the end of it. Like I was craving everything. Another cool story that I heard was from a woman who was shipwrecked.
Okay.
She got shipwrecked. She was out in sea. She was on a flotation device. She actually had a fishing pole with her on the flotation device. So at first she was catching fish. She was able to catch a lot of fish.
Right.
Catching these fish, she was only eating the meats as we normally do.
Right.
But as the weeks went by, she started craving the organ meats and the eyeballs and things like that. Because what her body was doing, her body was telling her, hey, this has things in it that we need.
Right.
And that's why I say for a lot of people, if you develop the sense to listen to your body, then your body's going to tell you what you need.
Right. Now, the other thing to remember too, though, is at this point, some people have kind of broken their bodies enough to where it's signaling for one thing that you think you need, but you actually need something else.
Right. Yeah. That's something I've read a lot about too, is the biome in the gut that'll actually signal your brain to seek out certain things.
Correct. And actually the effect of your gut on your mood and everything is absolutely enormous. So that's where actually with the berberine, it actually kind of helps rewire your gut to an extent, which can actually be a big thing for evening out kind of your personality and stuff like that even.
So this is also an interesting thing. I was talking to a guy a while back, and he was telling me the same thing. Like he was an alcoholic, and his guts was basically telling him, go seek out these sugars from the alcohol.
Right.
So I was thinking, well, if antibiotics destroys your gut biome, what if you took like a dose of antibiotics, killed your gut biome, and then started eating yogurt and like things with that would naturally benefit your gut?
So you might not end up with quite the variety of gut bacteria that you would ideally want to have by doing that. That's why you'll see people where like if they have run a course or two of very heavy antibiotics, they have to get something like a fecal transplant or something like that. I've heard of this shit. Yeah. Like where basically you take a healthy person and you take their feces and then put it in the person who is unhealthy. Right. And I think it's only like, I want to say it's less than 10% of people are actually able to be candidates to donate for that.
Right. Because they have healthy.
Right.
So how do they test that? They just test your fecal matter?
Right. I think they just test to see like kind of what bacteria is living in there and go from there.
Weird, man.
But it seems to be the quickest way to reduce the after effects from stuff like that.
No, it makes perfect sense, but it's just, I don't like taking a shit knowing that it's been in someone else's body.
I mean, if it saves your life.
No, yeah, I get it. Like if it saves your life, it saves your life. But at the same time, it's just a very weird thing to like think about.
Right.
The whole thing being human is a weird thing to think about. You have a hole here and a hole here and things pass from one thing to the next. And like the rest of it is just surrounding the hole.
Yeah. It's definitely an odd concept to think about.
Gosh, being human, man. So the supplements that I've been taking.
Okay.
Which one of those do you think is better? Can you say this? I don't want to get you in trouble or anything.
Oh no. So I don't actually know any of the brands we test.
Okay.
As far as that goes. So I can't even.
So it's like a blind study all of a sudden. Okay. Yeah. So the things that you've seen on paper, would you recommend, you said you recommend caged at one time, right?
I would personally take the caged over the hide, but I would probably cut it in half at least to start.
And what's the reason for that?
So the caged, at least from looking at it a couple of times, it looks about twice as strong. So you can probably get away with half.
That's so crazy to me because like the hide gives me a different feeling than the cage does.
Some of that can come down to just the other ingredients in there.
Yeah.
I mean, the hide has a lot fewer. So you're probably experiencing less effects from other things. And also they're making a lot more money off of you.
From the hide? Yeah. So I actually found it on sale this past time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that could be, so it concerns me as well when they stop carrying the supplements.
Right.
So GNC actually quit carrying Hide.
Okay.
So I went to both GNCs this past time to get it. And I finally found it at Academy.
Okay.
But it was on the bottom shelf, pushed to the very back.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh, they're trying to get rid of this shit.
Mhm.
So I bought it all.
Okay.
Dude, I swear up and down by that stuff. For some reason, it just puts me in the right mood.
I mean, how much do they charge per bottle for that?
That was 25 this past time when I bought it.
Okay.
Yeah, 25 per bottle. The cage, I believe it was like $50 or something the past time I bought it at GNC, but GNC marks everything up.
Right. Well, I mean, 25 for a 30 serving bottle really isn't bad at all, especially with the limited ingredient profile it has.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that one's not bad. It's normally like 36 at GNC.
Yeah.
So it was actually a better deal at Academy.
Right.
But like I said, I think they're trying to get rid of it for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, typically for like your higher end ones, you're going to be running 40 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some even higher.
That's why cage was a little higher because it probably had better stuff in it.
Yeah. And there's some I've even seen where it's like 15 servings and it's still $60 because they just pack that much stuff into it.
Yeah. Yeah. The guy was telling me at GNC that I should pay, less of that than.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess he does know what he's talking about, but still.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I brought the one that I had actually helped design.
Oh, you designed this stuff?
Yeah. I designed this.
Can I show it to the camera?
Well, I designed this separate of the company that I work for.
Right. So can I?
Yeah. You can check.
Okay. Cajun Nightcrawler.
Yeah. That's the flavor of it.
Oh, so it's Go Hard Labs?
Yes. Go Hard Labs was the company, and the pre-workout itself is called Driven. But so originally when we had released it, it was 30 servings. And then everybody was reporting that one scoop was too strong. So we just put a smaller scoop in and called it 60 servings.
Is it open?
Yep. Yeah, you can mix them up and try it if you want.
What, right now?
Yeah, if you want. It's only 150 milligrams of caffeine for one scoop. So it's pretty low.
Well, let me grab a cup really quick. Yeah. I'll cut this area out right here while I go grab a cup.
That works.
All right, we're back. So this is Driven pre-workout. Cajun Nightcrawler is the flavor.
Yeah, it's a sour watermelon gummy worm.
Sour watermelon gummy worm. So what were you saying about the caffeine?
So the caffeine on one scoop is only going to be, let's see, I want to make sure I'm giving you the accurate number.
Dude, that's delicious.
Glad you like it.
Yeah.
It's only going to be 150 milligrams. So, I mean, that's probably about where you're sitting at for, say, a shot of espresso, which offhand I think is like 90 to 170 milligrams of caffeine. So it's definitely not going to be too strong for you.
No, that's actually really nice. It's like a beverage.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. I've noticed a lot of pre-workouts on the market. They do not care about flavor whatsoever.
That's like me, dude. I normally just slam it. I slam it as soon as I wake up. So it can be the worst flavor ever. And I'm just like putting it down. But this is actually really freaking good.
Glad you like it.
Like I could drink this throughout the day, maybe.
Yeah. Like it's easy to do. I don't know if they currently have the other flavor in stock. It's like a blue raspberry lemonade.
What?
It's very good.
Where can you buy this at?
This is all online. Yeah.
So what's the website?
GoHardLabs.com is the website.
And it's GEAUX.
Yeah. They're actually based over in Slidell.
So people that aren't from Louisiana, they don't understand that you spell go GEAUX.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So GEAUX, HARD.com.
Go Hard Labs.
GoHardLabs.com.
Yep. Yeah, we can always put the link in the YouTube if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and slam the rest of this. So I'll see how I'll let you guys know how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I heard about pre-workouts is that anyone, or supplements in general, I guess anyone can design their own supplement.
Correct.
And because it's not FDA approved.
Right.
So how does that work?
So there is some FDA regulation over it as far as on the manufacturer side, but anyone can really design it. It's just, you're kind of limited on the ingredients you can use.
So like, what would be a bad ingredient that you couldn't use? Like ephedra?
Yeah. Ephedra is banned as far as that goes.
I took hydroxy hardcore one time.
Okay.
And that stuff worked so good, but it worked so good because it had ephedra in it. Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. A lot of the fat burners that are out there, they work because of what's in it as far as, caffeine or yohimbine, stuff like that, rather than, some special berry that they say does something, which studies are now showing doesn't do anything.
Right.
Or in certain cases, it just dehydrates you.
It makes a lot of sense too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took some stuff for the water retention before I went on stage, and that was probably banned too now.
What was it?
Well, I can't remember the name of it.
Good.
Yeah. Some guy just gave it to me and I was
gotcha.
like, sure. Cause I was puffy,
I mean,
you put all that work in before you get on stage. You don't want to be puffy when you get up there.
right. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of stuff that they used to sell in GNC that actually turned out to be actual steroids too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot there.
Yeah. It was probably the first stuff that I took too.
I mean, I know a lot of kids took like pro hormones and stuff like that because it was legal.
I think I did too at one time. Yeah. Like whenever I was in college, I found this stuff online and I ordered like three stacks of it. And
Okay.
each time I took it, dude, I could just see like, but I was also like in rage mode all the time. So I know that I was taking something, but it was over the counter stuff. It was like all over the internet stuff.
And it very well may not have even been what it said it was.
That's a good point.
Because for the most part, everything's manufactured in China. It's all synthesized in China. The companies just want, they want you to get the results. So they're going to slap on a label what they say it's supposed to be. The manufacturer might just be like, it's cheaper to put this in here instead.
Oh, it worked too. Yeah, there was like some liquid that you took under your tongue. There was some cream that you rubbed on your arms. And there was a pill that you took.
Okay.
That was like the stack that it was. And boy, did it make you like even your like brain function different. Like I was playing basketball at the time. But when I was off of the stuff, like it was almost like I was moving a step slower.
Right.
And then when I was on this stuff, man, my brain was just clicking, dude. Like the ball, I could see everything on the court.
Right. Well, your body got used to it.
Yeah.
So you were functioning at a higher level than once you came off, there's a bit of a lag on the recovery from that.
So how do you feel about like TRT and stuff like that?
As far as that goes, I'm a big fan of it. I mean, what anybody wants to do with their body, that's on them.
Right.
So I say, whatever you want to take, go for it. Just kind of be reasonable about it. Because there's a lot of people that take a lot of stuff that they don't need to.
Such as
far as like the performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah. Like growth hormones, things like that.
Right. You'll see people thinking if I take XYZ, I'm going to look like, say Chris Bumstead or, some big time bodybuilder, which that's never going to happen if you don't have the genetics.
Yeah.
From talking to people in the industry, oftentimes it's, your gym rats and your people that haven't reached pro status that are taking far more, like even 2, 3, 4, 5 times more than the people that are at the pro level.
Yeah.
Like it's insane what some people are doing.
Yeah, no, I'm getting a lot of these things popping up on Instagram, and this guy is talking about how much of this crap they've taken. And they're like, there's one guy that was talking about how he went to a Harry Potter movie.
Okay.
And I think when Harry Potter was like, the Dementors were like taking his soul or whatever, he said he was just in there crying. He's on a first date with this chick, right?
Right.
And he's in the theater just boo-hooing, crying. And then when the Patronus comes out and the Dementors go away, he said he jumps up and he's like cheering and stuff in this theater full of people. And the girl just looks at him like, you need to lower your dose.
I would imagine his dick didn't work either.
Well, that sucks for her if that was the case.
Oh, it's probably definitely the case.
Yeah.
It sounds like too much progesterone, a little too much estrogen there.
Yeah, I forgot what he said he was actually taking.
Probably
Tren?
Probably Deca.
Might have been Deca or Tren. It's one of those things. What's Tren? Is that one too?
Oh yeah, Trend's one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one where people tend to be angry.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of actually abuse coming out of that, unfortunately.
I think it's physical abuse.
Like physical abuse, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's all those substances, man. Like that's why another reason I say that being human is fascinating, because you can put a compound in your body and it changes your entire neurochemistry.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, as far as some of that stuff goes, we're concerned about adults using PEDs of any form, yet we put children on birth control, which is basically the same thing.
Yes.
Because you're changing their hormonal systems. You're adding extra something similar to progesterone and or estrogen, which is now throwing off their neurochemistry and everything like that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's to the point where some women have found that if they come off of that to have children, they lose interest in their partner because
I've heard
it's changed their brain chemistry that much.
Yeah, they're like sense of smell and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't take that if they need to or if their doctor says they should, but just, educate yourself and keep that in mind.
What we are saying is that if you are taking these things and you're thinking about getting married, maybe dose down for a bit and see if you still like this person.
Yeah. Work with your doctor on that one for sure, though.
Yeah, no. I don't know. All these things are weird to me.
Yeah.
Even alcohol. The alcohol changes your chemistry as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I had been doing like a cut prior to Christmas and I had gotten down to like 274. I've gained all of it back since Christmas.
Because you were cutting so drastically?
More water retention than anything.
Yeah.
Like I've already pulled 10 pounds of what I gained back off in like the past couple of days, but just that much in water retention from drinking and eating, kind of whatever.
Yeah. It's so fun to do though.
Oh, of course. But I mean, it's also good to kind of have a little bit of a reset for your metabolism too.
Yeah. Do you believe in like fasting and stuff?
As far as which kind of fasting?
Oh, I didn't know there was that many different kinds.
Well,
like,
I mean, intermittent fasting.
well, I don't know the actual like technical terms of them. Like I know when I do it, I just like try to go for the entire day.
Okay. I mean, intermittent fasting, as far as, if you're doing like a 16-8 or, whatever period of eating.
So 16 hours fasting, 8 hours eating. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as that goes, I mean, the reason why it's working for you is because you're not eating the rest of the day and you can only fit so much food in that time span. If you're still eating outside of a deficit in that window, you're not making any difference.
Right. So just water in that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, I feel this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Glad
is
you like it.
Yeah. I like this a lot. How much does this sell for?
I believe it's 50 right now. Don't quote me on that, but
yeah, I'll have to check this out, man. Cause especially if they discontinued Hyde for some reason, this might be a go-to for me.
yeah.
Yeah. I can like feel it. Makes you want to go like throw some things. That's why I love pre-workout. Cause I hate working out like with a passion. I fucking hate working out and people look at me and go, this guy loves working out. No, I fucking hate it, dude. But it just, when I take this stuff, it makes me want to go to the gym.
I gotcha. I mean, I enjoy working out personally, so it's a bit of a difference there.
I wish I did. So let's get into some weird shit, man.
Okay.
Like what's some weird shit that you like to talk about? Because I can pretty much talk about it all.
You can throw anything at me. We can go from there.
Well, I've already thrown the vaccine thing at you.
Okay.
Let's see. What do you think about human consciousness? Like what makes humans different from monkeys?
That's a tough one. I'm honestly not sure how to respond to that. I mean,
because we are the same as monkeys. Is what you should have said.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we did evolve from monkeys. And as far as the difference in consciousness goes, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a lot you can do with that.
Because I mean, we don't fully understand it, so it's kind of hard for me to comment on that. I mean, we are starting to see that certain animals are a little more aware of themselves than we originally thought. Like octopus, for example. I mean, they're probably just as smart as, say, like a dolphin or something like that from what we're starting to see now.
So interesting. Like I love to look at like animal videos online.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a seal the other day take a dolphin and slap a human in the face with it.
Yeah.
Human was kayaking. The seal comes up and smacks a human in the face with a octopus. Like, what do you think? Do you think there's like a rivalry there?
Hard to say. I mean, in nature, it might just be, the seals playing around, or who knows? Like it's hard to say.
Yeah, because that I think that's also another thing you could say, that the seal may be conscious, because why else would it take an octopus and smack someone in the face with it?
Right.
Like, why not just eat the octopus? Because that's what you think. If an unconscious animal is there, then it just wants to eat and fuck, right?
I mean, it could also be a territorial thing.
Ah, interesting.
Like saying, hey, you're in my zone. I don't want you here, so I want to throw an octopus at you. Which is a very unusual way of going about it. Maybe they have some odd sense of humor there, but that could be it.
I also saw Mariah Carey. She was playing with a dolphin, and Mariah Carey does her like high pitched squeal,
right?
And the dolphin responded to that.
Yeah. Who knows what she told it, but that's another thing.
Yeah. So, do you think? So, when you're talking about consciousness, do you think that all humans are conscious, or do you think that some humans are like animals?
I would definitely say everybody's conscious. To what degree? That's another thing.
Okay. So then that brings us to flat Earth.
Not a fan.
So one of my theories about flat Earth is I think the Earth is both flat and round at the same time, depending on your level of consciousness. So a 2-dimensional level of consciousness will see the Earth as a flat plane.
Mm-hmm.
A 3-dimensional level of consciousness will see the Earth as round. And I think you could even scale up higher than that, 4 and a 5D dimension of consciousness. And I think that the Earth just has different shapes as you go up in consciousness. Because the consciousness is just an awareness of what's around you.
Okay. Kind of see what you're getting at there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really don't see it as being flat ever.
Then you're a 3-dimensional level of consciousness.
Well, right.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to put myself in that mindset of, oh, it could definitely be flat.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, at the same time, though, prior to knowing all of these things about the Earth, I can understand why people might have thought it was flat. Just because from their perspective, okay, I can look over here and there doesn't seem to be a curve.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we kind of know a little more, it's kind of hard to argue against it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now that we've had people in space and stuff like that.
That's what I said. It's it's based off your perspective, your level of consciousness,
right?
Your level of awareness.
Yeah.
So I think that, like you were talking about the educational system, I think that if you educate more people, you'll lift the level of consciousness to, something higher.
Right. And at the same time, though, too, with the education, it has to be accurate and also maybe not too far to one side or the other.
Oh, what does that mean?
As far as too far to one side or the other?
Yeah.
I think a lot of education nowadays is very politically motivated. One side might not want you to teach this, that, and the next thing. The other says, oh, well, we should teach this instead, where the science that we have kind of counteracts both. In certain instances.
You mean like religion and science? Is it like a one side or the other?
I guess you could almost say that's one way to look at religion or lack thereof.
So from my perspective on educational system, I think that I don't really see the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I'm trying to. I don't know what you mean by that, because when I see the Earth, I feel like there's an absolute truth to the Earth.
Right.
Like the tree grows because of this.
Correct.
So I feel like when it comes to education, if you teach people the tree grows because of this,
mm-hmm.
that is the absolute truth. I don't understand like the sides argument.
So you'll see certain groups not wanting things to be taught like about race or evolution. That's a big one. And then you also see certain groups wanting to normalize certain sociological things that may or may not be a good thing.
So I feel like whenever we're talking about things that have two sides, they don't even matter.
I agree.
Yeah, like the race thing. The race doesn't fucking matter anymore.
It should be kept outside of education, but people are wanting to force it in.
Yeah. Yeah. Morgan Freeman, I think, has one of the coolest arguments about race. He's like, there won't be any racism if we just stop talking about it. Like racism is taught. Like when you grow up in a place, like I grew up in a place that's everyone's dirt poor.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going to school, no one sees race. Right. Everyone's just trying to survive. And I think that would be the case for a lot of the world if we literally just stopped,
Now, as far as that goes, I do think it would be nice if we could provide a level playing field for everybody.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Where, you're judged on the content of your character, your abilities, not who you know or where you came from.
Right. I agree with that completely.
But I think that does play in education because you'll see school funding is based on who lives in the area rather than need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one reason that we have a lot of the people on these antidepressants nowadays is because everyone can see the problems, but no one can see the solutions. And I think there are solutions to every problem. It's part of the duality of our reality.
Exactly.
Is that for every problem, there has to be a solution.
Right. Or there might not be a solution. There could be multiple solutions.
True. So where are these people that have the solutions?
Maybe they exist already. Maybe they don't. Maybe we're just ignoring them.
It's like they have to. I think we're ignoring them. I think that's the problem. Like a lot of people with mental disabilities, they're not really disabled. They just don't fit in with the current norm of society.
Right. I mean, as far as like, say, autism goes, that was something that came from the Neanderthal as a way to survive. Like it's a mental state that is more useful in, say, a situation where you're worried about predators.
Because you're aware.
Right.
Okay.
So, back then it was good to have people that fit different neurochemistries and had, say, different sleep patterns even. So you had someone who was, accustomed to being up at night. They kept watch. Like you had someone who was geared towards this need.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's everybody needs to fit in this box. Good luck if you don't.
Right. That's a problem.
Right. When we should be saying we're a 24-hour society. How can we, kind of build upon this? Like, oh, cool. You want to work at night? Let's help you with that.
Yeah. How do you figure that out though? Because because everyone goes to this base curriculum school.
Right.
And they're meant to fit in a box. And if you don't fit in the box, people, they're not really noticing it. They're giving you medication and saying, here, take this.
Exactly.
Because it's going to put you in the box.
Right. I mean, everybody needs to have a certain base level of skills.
Mm-hmm. Not
going to dispute that. Like if you can't function as a person, that's a problem. But at the same time, like we can't expect everybody to think the same way. As long as they're, not hurting anyone in the process or hurting themselves. I mean, you see a lot of kids like where they're kind of all over the place in the classroom, and that could just be the teacher isn't reaching them in the right way.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're overstimulated or something like that. Or, there could be something going on at home that's affecting it. There's a lot of different factors that come into play.
For me in high school, man, I was tired all the time because it just was boring as shit to me.
Right.
So I'd rather just put my head down and sleep than listen to the teacher ramble on about, whatever they're rambling on about.
And I mean, some kids do better teaching themselves rather than being talked at.
That's been how I've learned. Yeah. Like going to the internet and just like looking up information that I want to know. Mm-hmm. And I go down these rabbit holes and then I come out and I have like all this other knowledge.
Right. I mean, so a good example, I guess, for me personally, as far as learning different languages in high school, I took Spanish for a couple of years, and the teacher we had previously been a reporter for like the Barcelona Olympics. Mm-hmm. So her curriculum was more based around stuff you're actually going to use if you travel to these countries or need to interact with anyone who speaks Spanish, rather than a little more formal, I guess. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, like I hadn't taken Spanish since I think it was 10th or 11th grade. Fast forward to my freshman year of college, haven't used it at all. We go to Spain for a band trip, and I was able to function better there than people who had taken, senior level Spanish in college.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, why can't you do this? Like, what were you taught? Were you not taught this in a conversational manner? And I think that's where it comes down with education, where you have to find a way to reach the kids better in a way where they can grasp it and then apply it, rather than it goes in one ear, onto the test, out the other. Yeah.
The memorize and regurgitate method.
Right.
Yeah. That's our education system right now. Memorize and regurgitate. They're making employees rather than actual functioning humans.
Right. I'd had another class in college where it was on fish. The entirety of the course was taught for 2 or 3 weeks prior to the start of the quarter. Nothing the entire quarter. Then we had like a review and a final at the end. So you had to retain it.
Okay. So what do you mean? They taught?
So it was mostly field work.
Okay.
So we did that the summer before.
Which that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Like being out in the field is like how you learn things, in my opinion.
Like you got so much more hands-on experience, and it was explained why you have like the actual thing in your hands so you can kind of understand it better. But then a lot of people just could not remember it that long, which was odd to me. Like for me, it wasn't a big deal. Like my friend and I who were in the class, we were done with the final in probably about 15 minutes, got up, walked out. Everybody thought we gave up. We both got over a 90% on the test. Like no big deal. Meanwhile, there's people like just having a rough time with it because they just can't retain the information.
They've gotten used to the memorize and regurgitate, and then they delete everything that's in their brain.
Yeah. Which I think is something that we need to work on within the education system and just as a society as a whole.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I realized that people's brains function differently. I was talking to, we have a thread going with a bunch of guys that like I grew up with, and I read a paper or something. It was about how some people can't see images in their brain.
Right.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Because my entire life I've been able to like just anything you tell me, I can just pull up in my brain.
Yeah.
Elephant wearing a pink tutu. It's in my brain now. But like I messaged them and I was like, hey, can you guys not do this? And one of the guys was like, no, I can't see images in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time with that too. So
yeah,
I understand that.
It's fascinating to me. Like and I think that's something we should study more too. Mm-hmm. And he was saying he had like an internal dialogue that was just words, but there were no images.
Right. It's the same for me. Like I can think the words, but I can't picture it.
So when it comes to like the AI stuff, have you played with that any at all?
A little bit.
Because I think that's a really cool tool for what we're talking about. Because like for me, anything you tell me, a list of words, I can pull up my brain, which is kind of the same thing the AI is doing.
Right.
Like if one of the DALL-E, DALL-E, it's the image generator that's free. And you can basically tell it any words you want to, and it'll pull up an image of that. It'll generate an image for that. And I think it's pretty cool. So that's like a way to show people who can't do that what's possible. It's like a way to like,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Move them into that like area.
Yeah. So I know as far as that goes, like I have a hard time getting like a thought drawn out on paper. Like it's hard to translate the two.
Mm-hmm. I think it's everybody though.
Like I can describe it to you. Can I like draw it or explain how I really imagine it? No. So
give me a for instance.
That's a tough one.
So if I say elephant in a pink tutu.
Yeah,
you could draw that on paper, right?
I could very poorly draw it, but it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can draw it good either, but in my head, it looks awesome.
Yeah. In my head, I'm just thinking elephant in a pink tutu. That's it. No picture of an elephant in a pink tutu.
Yeah. Art in general fascinates me. Even people that can draw these things.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I can't do. Like, but I used to have a roommate who was an artist, and like she could take images in her brain and translate it to this canvas. And I'm like, it's fascinating to me that people can do these things.
Yeah. I mean, art's a tough one. It's very subjective, I feel like.
What do you think about Van Gogh? That one always fascinates me because the stuff he was creating, it's almost like, it's like he was seeing the world in a different way than everyone else can.
Right.
So everything around us is just like, is vortex energy, vortex mathematics.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what he was saying when he was painting. Because if you look at his Starry Night, his Starry Night is like, it's vortexes of light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, with that goes, again, that kind of plays into like different levels of consciousness or how people perceive their surroundings. I mean, his perception of reality could have been far different than ours.
Could you imagine? Like the city went crazy, right? Mm-hmm. This guy went crazy because he could see things other people couldn't.
Right. I mean, that could have been a deeper underlying issue past that too.
Well, yeah, which plays into schizophrenia and stuff.
Right. I mean,
are these people actually crazy, or are they just seeing something that the average person can't see?
That's up for debate. I mean, you do have a higher incidence rate of mental illness in arts and stuff like that. So. Yeah,
because they're trying to translate their vision of the world to the average monkey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your average person's probably like, I really don't understand this concept, but it's very cool. I enjoy it.
I love that I called them monkeys and you still said person.
Fair.
That's kind of how I look at people nowadays, dude. I'm like, every one of us are just monkeys wearing clothes.
Right.
Some of us can see things other people can't see. But I think that a big key to that is taking substances like psilocybin, because I think that expands your consciousness in a way that I hadn't experienced the world before I took these substances.
Yeah, I get that.
And even like smoking weed, I'm not a fan of doing it in public, but if I'm at home and I'm thinking about a certain concept, right? So I have this concept right here in my vision. So I only see it one way. But then if I smoke weed and I'm still thinking about this concept, it's almost like I pull back and I look at it from every angle. So I can see all these other like connections to this concept. And it just gives me a deeper understanding of it. And also it lets me think abstractly about the concept.
I gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah. So I think these substances could benefit our society in a way if we're taught how to use them.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of people kind of address things more with a sledgehammer approach rather than like a more fine-tuned approach like they should be. So people almost want to get any more, it seems like, as high as possible with whatever compound they're choosing to use.
Dude, the new weed too is just ridiculous. Like there's a reason that there's CBD and THC in these compounds.
Right.
And when you start like maximizing the THC and lowering CBD, you're creating something that's a hallucinogen with high anxiety.
Right. And I mean, who does that really benefit?
People that have resistance to the substance because they smoked it too long.
Mm-hmm. So it's more people need to be more aware of any substance they're using. That could be weed, that could be alcohol, anything.
Yeah.
Even caffeine, where they might just be so accustomed to it where they're losing a lot of the benefits because they've adapted to it.
Yeah. So do you change the world or do you change the people?
A little bit of both. Because I feel like there's a lot of personal growth that needs to happen with a lot of people, but there are definitely some overarching changes that could be used as well.
Yes. What do you think about UFOs?
So the idea of us being alone definitely doesn't jive with me. Like, I think there has to be something else out there.
There's just too much, right?
Right. But at the same time, though, you kind of wonder if we haven't actually been contacted or visited because we haven't achieved a certain level of civilization that is necessary. Because realistically, like, think about it. If you can travel light years or whatever in space in time, feasibly, you could just wipe us off the face of the earth if they wanted to, or do whatever. So you would have to be peaceful enough in order to be contacted. Otherwise, why would they bother with you? Unless they just wanted to take from you, which at that point we'd be gone.
Well, that brings up an interesting thought. From our perspective, I think, yes, they would wipe us out because we're a very violent species.
Exactly.
But I think to achieve that level of technology, you wouldn't be a violent species anymore.
Correct.
So maybe because here's what I think. I think that if you look at our, smallest or most violent like places on the planet, you find life.
Right.
If you look at the very bottom of the ocean, you find life. It only makes sense that if you look above, then you're going to find life.
Right.
Even in space, I think there's probably something that can survive up there.
Right.
That maybe we can't see it yet.
And actually, on that note, it kind of makes me wonder as far as stuff in the ocean. Like, NASA was founded to explore the ocean originally, not space. We're not really doing a whole lot of ocean exploration anymore. Well,
so they've recently started getting deeper into this because one of the plans they have is to send a probe to Europa. I think it's one of the water planets. And they've started actually studying more in the ocean because they want to go there and look in the oceans at Europa.
Well, as far as that goes, I was more going to say, are we just afraid of what could be down there? Is there something down there that we're not aware of?
Something recently I learned about was that so one of the things they were doing when they first started studying the ocean was they were sending these ships, right? And they were trying to survey the bottom of the ocean, and they were shooting like LiDAR, or echoes down to the bottom. Right. And the echoes were reflecting off of a layer in the middle of the ocean. Like, there's this layer that spans like almost the entirety of the ocean in the middle that the radars were bouncing off of before they got to the bottom. And they realized there's a dense layer of fish that spans the entire ocean.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. I started like looking it up and I was like, this is nuts. I didn't realize there were that many. I thought there was like, it was hard to like find fish there, but they were saying, no, there's an entire layer that is very dense and very thick. And even another thing that's interesting about the ocean is that there are rivers in the ocean. Yeah. That are separated from the ocean itself.
Yeah. There's like different levels of salinity and stuff. And that's how you get those.
It's craziness, man. So it only makes sense to me that there are other things out there.
Right.
Even the planets. I feel like planets are alive. We just can't see them because we're on a small scale. Okay. Like, humans are so small that they think that we think that we're the largest things that exist, but I feel like planets are actually alive too. We just can't see them because it's like an ant. Makes sense. An ant probably doesn't know that there's humans walking above it all the time.
Okay. That's a tough one to like fully grasp.
Well, all these things. That's all abstract thought.
Yeah, I get it.
Until an alien comes out here and says, "What's up, bro?" But all we can do is talk about it.
I feel like when that day comes, we won't hear about it.
Right. So it's probably already happened then.
I mean, if you talk to certain astronauts, they'd say it did multiple times.
Yeah. So like, if these guys are saying it, then,
Right. Makes you wonder.
I think that there are aliens already on the planet, but I think that we have to stop thinking of human beings the way we think of human beings. I think that, like I said, a monkey, like human beings are monkeys. I feel like human beings are an animal, and aliens are just a energetic being that can take over the human and then use the spacesuit, which is the human body, to survive on this planet. I think that's all a human is. All a human is an adapted spacesuit that's adapted to survive on this planet. And I think that if you go to another planet as the soul, or whatever you want to call it, soul, the energy, whatever it is, there are electrical signals that are controlling the body. So I think that whenever you exit the body, if you go to another spacesuit, you can control it too.
I mean, as far as that goes, maybe that's not fully the case, but what if it's a situation of a species evolves to the point where they have AI and stuff like that, but also the ability to transfer consciousness into, say, a computer or something like that, that could then take over the organism itself.
Say that again.
So basically, kind of like being able to transfer one's getting tongue tied here. Sorry. Transfer one's consciousness into a computer, which could then transfer it to, say, another body through AI or whatever. Like if you have enough technology at that point in order to do that.
What is that? What is that show?
I mean, I don't want to say Avatar, but kind of like Avatar.
Well, Avatar is one of them. Yeah. It's, there's a show on Netflix or something like that, though, that where they've basically mastered this technology, and the elites of the society, which I hate that fucking word, elites. Like no one's an elite. You're a monkey, same as another monkey. But the people with a lot of money, they figured out a way to clone their bodies, and then whenever they die, they create backups. And they they basically install this like chip in the back of your neck, which anytime your consciousness passes through that chip, it puts an imprint on it, so that when you die, they can take that chip out and install it into a clone of your body, so that your consciousness is now in this new body.
I'm not sure which show that was. I think it's popped up in a couple shows actually.
Yeah. But they could live for forever, as long as that chip wasn't, they call it a stack, as long as their stack wasn't damaged.
Okay.
Yeah. So in order to actually kill somebody, you had to blow their stack out of their back of their neck.
I gotcha.
But yeah, I think that all humans really are is an electricity in the body.
Right.
These electrical signals are controlling this entire body. So since energy could not be created nor destroyed, it only makes sense that if the body is destroyed, the energy dissipates back into the universe. But if you could capture that energy, then you can imprint it on something else. And I think that's where when we're looking at these machines, if you do capture those electrical signals, that energy that you are, your soul, then you dump that into a computer. I think there'll be a learning curve to actually be able to move the computer. Same way as a learning curve when you're moving your body. Like when you're a baby, when you first get into this body, you have to learn how to maneuver it and everything.
Right.
But I think once you get past that learning curve, then yeah, you could essentially live in a machine.
Yeah. I think in theory, maybe within the next 100 years, you'll be able to transfer it. I mean, it's feasibly, you're probably going to die per se.
Well, yeah. I mean, depending on what death is,
right.
I think our current definition of death will be changed very soon.
Yeah.
Because when we look at death, we think of death as the body dies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a true transfer, more a copy.
Okay.
Kind of like, I guess this sort of ties in with Star Trek, how they would use their, they get beamed up. In theory, based on what we know so far, it's rather than you being transported, you're just a copy.
So is that what happened in Star Trek too? Is that what they did?
That's what I mean. So they actually died every time.
Oh my God.
And were just copied.
What if it was so painful, but you just couldn't remember it?
Right. Exactly. It just made a copy of you at the other location and the old one just gone.
And you would never know it either. It's kind of like I've heard this argument about like anesthesia, where that what if when you take anesthesia, all it does is make you forget that you felt all that pain.
That's actually how some of it works.
Get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, especially older forms, it was kind of like a twilight anesthesia where you just forgot where you're at. That's where ketamine's actually used in certain cases for that.
So what's the stuff they give you at like the dentist, the gas? Nitrous oxide? That's not nitrous oxide.
No, I'm drawing a blank on that one.
It's nitrous, isn't it? Something like that. But they give you the stuff at the dentist, and I wonder if that's anyway, it doesn't really even matter because if you forget that you feel pain, it's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, now I'm kind of curious what that one was.
It's so trippy when you start thinking about it. That's just that the human experience is just like,
oh no, that is nitrous oxide. You're right.
But like that's the same stuff that you get when you take pre-workouts, right?
Yeah. Certain ingredients will increase the amount of nitrous oxide in your blood.
That's why you get the pump.
Right. It's more with the dentist situation, you're displacing that much of the other oxygen to kind of knock you out.
I love nitrous oxide. The dentist nitrous oxide.
Mm-hmm. Dude,
there was one time when I was at the dentist, and I've only taken it one time at the dentist, and they were doing some work on me, and the dentist could have chopped my fucking arm off.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, this is awesome.
I mean, is that all they had you on or anything else?
I'm pretty sure they like injected like Novocaine or something too, but that's Novocaine and then the nitrous oxide, but I was just like loopy as hell.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But it was great. That was a dentist I ran into one time on Bourbon Street when I was bartending down there, and he was telling me the same thing. He's like, oh yeah, I have a tank. And I was like, you probably shouldn't tell anyone else.
No.
Yeah. But he's like, yeah, that stuff's great.
Interesting.
Yeah. I love thinking about things like consciousness and also about time in general. That fascinates me as well, because I think time is also one of those things that's just based off of human perception.
Right.
That I think when you start scaling up the levels of consciousness, what you actually see is that time doesn't even exist, that time is just a torus field. And, it's all moving in a circular pattern.
Right.
So if that's the case, then that means that this has already happened once and it will happen again. And basically we're just playing characters right now in a story that is endless.
Yeah. I mean, if you prescribe to like the multiverse theories and stuff, like there's an infinite number of you somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about it like, like in the Vedas, like Hinduism, they talk about time in a cyclical thing. So when you start thinking about it that way, you can look at their stories and say, well, are those stories playing out again? And I think that's that way with every story that we have. All history plays out in cycles. Yeah. So if you really want to learn the truth about history, just look to truth about what's happening right now. Look to history and say, okay, well, this happened then. It's probably happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like history tends to repeat itself quite a bit.
That's because everything is cyclical, man.
Although I feel like it's speeding up.
Which is interesting as well, because if you think about it as being a torus and everything works in vortex mathematics, then you'll see that the torus, speeds up when it gets closer to the center. Right. Because the center is like a smaller circle. Outside is bigger. So I think it does have to speed up and then also slow down. Yeah. But it's also a cyclical thing, like with the balance of duality. This is getting way abstract right now. Right. But yeah, man. Good times.
Yeah, I feel like we might be getting towards that center point.
What happens when you get there, though?
Nobody knows. And, how do you know you're there?
I think you have to expand out your consciousness and not look at the world in this three-dimensional perspective. Right. I think that's all. You heard of Dolores Cannon?
I'm not familiar.
Okay. She talks about this kind of stuff a lot. And I really like her work, but she talks about the expansion of human consciousness and how, I think she said in like 2012, this is when she made her first prediction that the world is fixing to start going through a split. Right. And she said that some people are moving into like a fifth dimensional consciousness where they can, see the world in a different manner. And other people are just going to like live in this three-dimensional consciousness She said that the earth is physically splitting, which I don't see that. I don't know where she was going with that. I haven't really dove into that side too much because that's a hard concept for me to grasp, but the earth is actually physically splitting. But yeah, all these things are just like really cool. It's like, where do these people come up with these ideas, you know?
Right. It's an interesting one. I'll have to look into that one.
I bet she takes mushrooms.
At least.
You got anything else? Any words of wisdom for the kids?
Let's see. As far as like maybe expanding your consciousness more, improving your overall well-being, increasing your dopamine, sauna.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like, the cold exposure and heat exposure.
Right.
I've been looking into that set like a lot. And I hear a guy named Andrew Huberman.
Yes.
You Huberman podcast.
Yeah. I've watched and listened to pretty much everything he has out there.
Love Andrew Huberman. Such a great guy.
Yeah. If you guys aren't watching him already, you need to. Yeah.
Huberman podcast. He's a Stanford professor of neuroscience. Is that what he does? Okay. Yeah. He's a good one. But he talks a lot about the heat exposure and cold exposure and how it's actually, there's a lot of good information out about it right now saying that it helps with aging, right? It's anti-aging effects.
Yeah, anti-aging. And depending on the timing, you can actually improve your performance in the gym as well.
Yeah. And he was saying that you don't have to actually do that much. It's like 5 minutes a week or something like that. What is it?
I think it's about, I want to say like optimal top end is probably about 60 minutes. I want to say, don't quote me on that for sure.
Per week?
Yeah. Per week.
Okay.
In say 20-minute exposure. So 3 times a week, 20 minutes should be plenty.
Yeah. It's not that bad. I love sitting in sauna. Like cold exposure is a different story.
Yeah.
But the heat exposure, I fucking love.
So if you're going to do the heat exposure, the best time to do it is after a workout or at night, like the day you worked out. It'll help you sleep better. But also it kind of helps with the muscle building a little better in the recovery.
Yeah, I've heard that because a lot of people, they want to ice their muscles after they work out, but that's a bad thing because the inflammation is good.
Yes. Inflammation is not always the enemy.
Right.
But in this case, it's a good thing.
Yeah, because it's essentially when you're ripping the muscle fibers,
right? The
blood is going in there and it's healing the muscle fibers. So if you put cold exposure on it, then you're pushing the blood back out.
Yeah.
So it's causing the healing process to go away.
And plus the heat shock proteins you activate, as well as a couple other processes that happen, will increase your dopamine for, I want to say it was like 36 to 48 hours after.
Which is with the sauna.
Yeah, with the sauna. So you're going to feel just so much better.
Oh, that's awesome.
For at least a day or two after.
Definitely. I got to find me a sauna around here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of gyms around here that have them.
Well, I think the girl down the street does. Said, I forgot her body shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she has a sauna down there. I need to go see how much she'll give me a sauna package for.
Yeah, so I try to do it 2-3 times a week if I can. It's definitely worth it. But it also can help with like burning fat and other things as well. Like it's just a very overall beneficial thing to do.
So do you do the ice baths too? So
it's kind of hard to do them down here with it being warm all the time for the most part.
1,000,000 degrees, yeah.
Yeah. So I will often do like when I wake up, I'll hit myself with the water just on cold, not even hot, which often isn't that cold, but in the winter it's a little colder. But if you can get it as cold as you go, even that little shock in the morning kind of helps naturally wake you up.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But then as far as like an ice bath itself, you want to kind of space that at least 24 hours after a workout, preferably longer if you can, to avoid kind of disrupting the muscle building and repair process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're starting to run into a lot of soreness and stuff like that, it might not hurt to do it sooner. But if you're really focused on that goal, I would probably push it out as far as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to start doing more of that kind of stuff just because I think it would actually help my body with recovery and things.
Right. And actually with doing it in the morning too, another thing you kind of add on to that is actually push your caffeine intake 90 minutes, maybe even 2 hours after you wake up. And that'll actually help you wake up a little better and get a better effect out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're taking it in too soon, you're altering your sleep-wake cycle a bit. So you're not going to sleep as well at night. That's
another thing that Huberman talks about a lot is the caffeine, pushing that back, and also sun exposure.
Yes. Yeah. Getting the sun exposure in the morning, like I think it was like 10 minutes, just even if it's an overcast day, like it helps.
Yeah. And he says, go outside and see it. Cause even if you're looking through a window, it lowers the amount of good stuff. I don't know what it is. Yeah. But that's an interesting thing to think about, because nowadays, living in the society we live in, like there are many people that are actually going out and getting the sun in the morning, where back in the day when we were waking up, we would immediately go out and try to look for food. Mm-hmm. And another one of the things is eating in the mornings. Like we think that breakfast is this like super important meal, but one of the things that a lot of the, big dietitians talk about is it's eat a piece of fruit in the morning or something like that. Yeah. Like you don't want to eat a big meal in the morning, because that makes your digestive system, start working overhaul.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on your goals too. So if your goal is to try to maybe lose weight, might not be the best idea to kind of put an overdrive in the morning. If you're trying to gain weight, like in a bulk phase or something like that, you're going to want to start eating early and often.
I just think about like for optimal performance as a human being, for me, the way I look at the digestive system and the human body in general is it's almost like a computer.
Right.
Okay. And my computer only has a limited amount of processing power.
Exactly.
So if I wake up in the morning and I immediately dump a huge amount of food in my body, my digestive system goes to work.
Correct.
Which is taking away from all the other processes that I could be using that for, such as like mental processes, things like that. Right. So if I have like a mentally taxing task ahead of me, I try not to eat. Yeah. Yeah. I try to like, keep all that energy that I could use for my brain.
Yeah, I know some people have found that fasting has been beneficial as far as focus in that regard, because of, the energy not going towards digestion. At the same time, though, too, that also, I believe, influences parts of your body systems where it's kind of like a hunt type thing. So you're more focused and more driven because you haven't eaten.
Interesting.
Now that in certain people, that can be a problem because it pushes them too far. So you kind of have to play with it on your individual organism and kind of see what works.
Well, that could be the same thing with like masturbation too. Right. So as a man, if you don't masturbate, then you're going to be on the hunt to release that.
Right. But past a certain point could be too far.
Right. The human organism. Yeah. Fascinating.
I mean, again, because we're all so different, you really have to kind of play with it to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think so. I think more people need to learn how to listen to their bodies rather than listen to anything that you and I are saying. Right. Because we can only speak from our own perspective. Yeah. But if you are in tune with your body enough that you can go, hang on, how does this make me feel when I do this? Then you can tailor it to yourself.
Exactly. But at the same time, though, too, if it makes you feel good, but your health is suffering, you need to circle back.
Which that's like alcohol in general. Right. Like for me, alcohol makes me feel amazing, but I know that it's not good for me.
Right. And that's where if you take steps ahead of time, you might be able to kind of ameliorate some of the issues.
Well, I don't know if that's even, that's still not making you healthier with alcohol.
Well,
it'll nullify the hangover. But
you can nullify the hangover, help with the liver damage to a certain extent, but you're still going to have like the hormone disruption and stuff like that.
Dude, it's been a fascinating podcast with you. Well, I'll definitely have you on again. We can talk about some more of this stuff. Cause I know there's a lot more questions I could pick your brain about. I just don't have them right now prepared.
No, you're good.
But I'll definitely have you on again. Is there anything you want to tell, to the world one last time?
I guess just be more mindful of what you're putting into your body. Don't believe all the hype behind certain things. Do your research, but make sure it's coming from viable sources.
Yes.
And then as far as like doctors and stuff like that, get your blood work, be more proactive with your health, because it's easier to prevent a problem rather than fix it.
Absolutely. And can people find you online anywhere?
I mean, I'm on Instagram. I can give you my handle for that.
Go ahead and spell it out to him if you want to.
It'll just be, actually, I got to look it up because I don't remember it offhand. I don't actually really even post anything on there right now.
Well,
but I'm going to start soon. So it'll be MR_BING 9217 on Instagram.
Mr. Bing _9217.
Correct.
Nice, dude. Thanks for coming in today, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for this. This is delicious here.
Yeah, no problem.
Driven pre-workout, Cajun Nightcrawler. Go check it out.
Yep.
Deuces.